So what's the one distance metric that's going to improve your golf substantially? It might actually surprise you. I'm Fitzgerald The Golf Doctor, and I've been a golf coach now for 37 years, and I specialise in teaching normal, everyday people. The thing that most people get wrong is the one metric you really need to consider is not what you think it is. So it's obviously hitting it further from the tee. Maybe it's hitting more fairways from the tee. Well, okay, it must be hitting more greens in regulation. Yep, it's on the green, about 2 flag sticks from the hole. So many people come to me for golf lessons, and they're thinking that if they can hit the ball further off the tee, they're going to hit much better scores. It actually doesn't work that way. The further you hit it from the tee, for average golfers, I'm not talking about the elite, but for average golfers, the further in trouble you're going to get on average. The more it shows up your weaknesses when you get closer to the green. And it's when you get closer to the green that is the big separator of average golfers. So I have a client, I'm going to call him Will because Will doesn't want to appear on camera. So Will plays off an 18 handicap, and he's basically stayed at 18. And what happens is he comes for a golf lesson, we sort out the issue, and one of his issues is accuracy from the tee. So I get him hitting it much better from the tee, and usually he has a good round. So he goes from 18 to 16. But 5 or 6 weeks later, he drifts back out and I see him again. So how's it going, Will? Oh, I'm back to 18 again. So I said to Will, are you up for a challenge? And he said, yeah, I'd love to be. I said, okay. So how about you do exactly what I ask you to do for the next month, and let's see what happens. And if I can't lower your handicap, I'm going to give you some lessons for free. And he said, I'm up for that. So what we did is I asked Will when he missed the green. So if he was playing a par 4, when his second shot didn't get on the green, so in other words, when he missed the green for regulation, what was the average distance he finished from the hole after he hit his third shot? So in other words, after he hits his approach from around the green, what was his average first putt length and his putting for par? So he thought about it and he said, oh, that'd be about 12 feet. I said, okay, good, 12 feet. That's pretty good. So I then said, go and play some rounds, and I think we worked on 4 rounds. And I said, tell me what happens over the next 4 rounds. Mark it off every time you miss the green. And even if you don't miss it for regulation, when you're chipping the ball on the green, what is your average first putt length? So after 4 rounds, he came back to me and it was 21 feet. So here he was thinking he was 12 feet, and the reality was he was 21 feet. So that brings up a whole heap of issues. So what we did is I gave him some skills, and we had a look at his chipping and made a couple of tiny little adjustments. Basically, the biggest adjustment was stop using lofted clubs to chip with. Just fixed his setup a little bit. And other than that, I just said, okay, here's some games I want you to play. And if you can play these games, you're going to lower that score. So we then looked at what happened after the next 4 rounds. So after the next 4 rounds, that went from 21 feet and it got down to 15 feet. So 6 feet, 2 paces, and you might think that's not much of a difference. Well, he went from an 18 handicap to a 14 handicap. And the funny thing was, he said to me, you know, he said, I don't feel like I'm playing that well, but I'm scoring better. So that, of course, wasn't over 4 rounds. That was over the month. So I think he played 8 rounds in that time. So over the next 8 rounds, he didn't just have one good game. every single round he had was playing below the 18 handicap. And all we did not touch his golf swing, we just improved his chipping. And he was thinking that 12 feet wasn't that good. Well, I think for the average golfer, it is pretty good. So we need to sort of mix in some reality of what real is. And if we look at what PGA Tour average is, they're the best players in the world, some of the answers might surprise you. So if we look at the shot that I've got here, this is 30 yards from that flagstick. So from 20 to 30 yards, and these stats are freely available on pgatour.com, from 20 to 30 yards, the best player on tour averaged 6 foot 10 inches. So after they hit this shot, on average, they were 6 foot 10 inches from the flag. The average PGA Tour was 9 foot 7 from here, 9 foot 7 inches from 20 to 30. And the worst player on tour was 12 foot 1 inch, which was where Will thought he was. So he was basically saying that his short game is the equivalent of the worst player on the PGA Tour. It's not. He's worse than that. But I think it's a good goal to strive. Let's see if you can get closer to the worst player on PGA Tour average, and you're going to get better. So this is from 30 yards out. It really isn't that far. So now I've moved in closer. We're now 20 yards from the flagstick. So if we look at the PGA Tour data, this is from 10 to 20 yards, so it's the extreme. The best player on tour hits it to 5 foot 7 inches. So just under 2 putter lengths from the hole is where the best player on the PGA Tour is. The average from this distance is 7 feet. So a little bit more than 2 putters. So maybe 2 putters and a grip away. That's where the average is. And the worst player on tour is 8 foot 8 inches. So approaching 3 putter lengths from the hole. Okay, so the third distance we're going to talk about is the proximity to the hole from the fringe. So we're just off the edge of the green here, and we could be anywhere just around the green. So what is the best player on tour from just off the fringe? So from the fringe, the best player on tour hits it to 1 foot 5 inches. That's pretty close. That's a very makeable putt. The average is 3 feet. So that's 1 putter length from the hole. And the worst player on tour from here is 5 feet. So once again, we try and match up to the worst player on tour, and if we can get it to 5 feet, that's a pretty good result. Remember, this is for the average golfer, not the elite golfer, for the average golfer. Now what I'm really interested in is what happened to Will. So if I grab this ball and we pace it out, 3, 6, 9, 12. So Will's perception was that when he missed the green, and we're not talking specific distances, but when he missed the green for regulation and after he'd hit his chip on, his average putt for par was at 12 feet. Well, the reality was he was back up here at 21 feet. And the reason that was too many is the average golfer 3 putts from 15 feet, which is here. So the average golfer 3 putts 51% of the time. And we're talking average golfer. So if we can get the ball inside that 12-foot range, you're going to have a lot less 3 putts. You also have a much greater chance of holing a 1 putt from inside 15 feet to 21 foot. So the closer that we can get to that 12-foot range, the better. And even if we can only get to 15 feet, it's going to pay dividends. So remember, Will made 4 shots difference, not by changing his golf swing, not by hitting it further from the tee, by making his proximity to the hole after his approach shot to the green a shorter distance. So my challenge to you is, what's your number? So if you take a guess now at what you think your average proximity to the hole is when you've missed the green and you hit your first chip on. Tell me what you think it is, then find out what it really is, and then work really hard to make that better. Now, if you can do that, I know you're going to lower your score. And change your score, not your golf swing, is my mantra. So if you can do that, it's going to have a big impact. So I'm going to point to a video up here. I'll load one up for you that I know is going to have an impact on lowering your score.